It seems Amazon's MMORPG New World is fundamentally broken. Not only is it hemorrhaging players, it has also had tens of thousands of gold coins injected into circulation via a replication glitch. And perhaps the worst thing, turns out there's a temporary invulnerability exploit in the game which is so deeply coded into how it works it might actually take a major rewrite to fix, allowing you as a player to delay damage and to stop yourself in mid-air. And until they fix this, every PvP war could potentially be glitched out. So let's discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Strife Plays, and I believe it's important to start by saying New World is an enjoyable game on the surface. I'm having fun playing it. It's fun to run around, craft, gather, explore, do some basic PvE, or some simple PvP. There's a lot of fun to be found in New World. There has some quality design elements, like the lighting, the sound, the general exploration. It's fun. And there is a tendency, whenever defending your hobby or your passion, to overlook all of the negatives and only focus on the positives. And sometimes there's a focus on, when you're attacking something, to overlook all of the positives and focus entirely on the negatives. I want to look at a balanced middle view of this. You're not wrong if you enjoy New World. If you're going to comment, well, I'm having fun, great, good for you. I am genuinely happy you're enjoying the game, but it doesn't help us from a technical point of view to be blind or ignorant to the problems it is facing. So let's have a look at some major flaws that New World has discovered within the last couple of days. Because it turns out the beauty of the game is only skin deep, and there are some mechanics that exist on a much deeper level that are so fundamentally broken it's going to drive players away or prevent new players from joining. And if you know how coding works, and I say to you, New World is a client-side authoritative MMO, you'll know how dangerous that can be. Before we begin, a huge thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. More on how you can support at the end. For now, let's look at some major flaws New World has. This isn't as simple as having shallow quests, because that's something that can be updated or fixed or patched. This is much worse. Imagine looking at a beautiful mansion. Everything you can see, the paint on the walls, the curtains in the windows, the flowers on the lawn, that's surface level stuff, very easy to change. That's your graphics and sounds and quests. Imagine if someone told you the very foundation of the mansion was cracked and damaged and you need to rebuild it from the ground up or risk a major collapse one day. That is the situation we're in with New World. I was talking to Callum Upton a few days ago on our gaming podcast, The Tangent Tavern, and I asked him, have you heard about the invincibility exploit in New World? And he told me he'd created a short Python script, about 5 lines long, which activates it and is essentially an invulnerability code as long as he holds down a certain hotkey. So let's have a look at exactly how it works. In an MMORPG, you've got the server, that's the main game information hosting place, and then you've got the client, that's the player, you, your actual PC. Now, the most common security advice is never trust the client, and for good reason. If information is held server-side, the client, that's you, cannot change it. If information is held client-side on your own PC, you can. Remember playing Adventure Quest or Dragon Fable and using programs to change your in-game gold count. That's because your personal gold count is held client-side, then just sent to the server at the end of your session and saved. So you can manipulate it as you like, if you know how. In an MMORPG game with lots of other players, the only thing the client should be in control of are superficial things within their own game that don't affect other players, like changing your UI or your graphics settings or your audio, installing mods like maps or quest helpers, things other people will not notice and will not affect their gameplay experience. But New World has a very, very strange exploit, a relationship between the server and the client. Put simply, when your game window isn't focused by your own machine, the server handshake to you, that's the check the server makes sending information to the client, just doesn't happen. Think of it like this. When you press a key to move, that's client to server. Server checking it's okay to happen and then you moving. When another player attacks you, that's server information to the client, to you, saying, hey, you're taking damage, reduce your health. The exploit is remarkably simple. Play the game in windowed mode. Whenever you want to become invulnerable or prevent damage from being sent to you and stacked up instead, simply exit the window, click on the window bar, and then drag it around the screen. That's it. Any information that would be sent from the server to your client isn't. It's either stacked up server side or it's cached client side, but it's not processed as long as you keep moving that window around. And that is a major programming oversight. What this means is, if I'm being attacked and I exit the game and start dragging my window around, all that incoming damage information that's trying to be sent to me just isn't. It never gets accepted because my client isn't focused. It just stacks up, waiting, but I never register it. This has been proven in multiple videos. There's even one of a player leaping from a cliff that I was able to replicate, then moving the window, and other in-game players just see the avatar frozen in midair, falling really slowly. In fact, when we replicated this, we discovered you take even more fall damage, because it seems to calculate your fall damage based on your time in the air. And if you're not focusing the window, it just assumes that you're in the air the whole time, which is proof that these calculations are being done client-side, not server-side. Now, you might say, what is the benefit of staying in the air longer and taking more fall damage? In this specific case, nothing. But this is proof that it is possible to manipulate your own game client to send wrong information back to the server and have the results be unexpected. If this is a negative to us now, it is only a matter of time until someone finds out how to abuse this. And someone may have done it. Remember I said Callum discovered an invincibility code? Well, all he's done is write a Python script which vibrates the New World window 1 pixel side to side really fast and then bound that to a hotkey. So when he presses that hotkey, his client is effectively blocked from incoming data, meaning no damage will appear to him, and every player attacking him, it will look like he's invincible. Now, this doesn't mean that no damage will eventually happen. The incoming requests are stacking up and up and up, and when the window is focused, all the stacks are sent at once, like in this video here, but while I keep moving the window, I won't die. But any AoE effects I put down will keep happening, because once I've applied them to somebody else, then it's a calculation on their end, not on mine. And healers can keep healing me and let me know when I'm at full health again. This is also how you're able to leap from cliffs. Press escape, then move the window around and you'll be suspended in mid-air, because your movement and the client accepting and responding to incoming data is fully reliant on the client being focused. So how have Amazon Games Studios responded to this very obvious exploit? Well, they've removed the ability to run your game in borderless windowed mode. However, they haven't removed windowed mode, which is where the problem is. And if you're thinking it seems useless to be able to stay alive but not do anything, remember, New World is a PvP game. And if you stay alive on a PvP capture spot, you capture it, or at least you prevent the enemy from taking it, meaning you can keep your capture spot yours indefinitely. If you are alive on a capture spot and the enemy appear, just hold the window of the game and they can never, ever kill you. Now, Amazon say that they've managed to solve this specific exploit, but that's not the real issue here. The real problem is that we've discovered New World is client-side authoritative. That means you as an individual player actually have a massive amount of power and influence over the calculations that are done in regards to your character and then the information that's sent from the server to you or you back to the server. No MMORPG should ever put important mechanics like taking damage client-side. Because as soon as you discover any calculation is done client-side, it's only a matter of time until people break it. It's a handshake between you and the client and the server, and it's just not working correctly. And people have used it to dupe gold already. The New World economy has been damaged almost beyond repair within a few days because this client-server connection has been interrupted enough to duplicate gold. Whenever you trade with another player in an MMORPG game, you don't actually give them exactly the same item that you had. What usually happens is they are given a copy, then your original is deleted. For a player, this is no different to trading, but this method is also affected by the client-server handshake delay. This is how dupes have existed in games for years. Remember how with Pokemon Red and Blue on the old Game Boy, you could just pull the trade cable out, the physical link cable, at the right time to get both Pokemon on both Game Boys? That's because the copy was created on the other, and then you detached it before the original was deleted. The same thing is going on here, but much, much faster. Some players have been logging in, trading gold to other players, and then by abusing the fact the server cannot send information to you or stacks it up, duping the item, because you are giving the item to another player, and then the server sends it to them, and that's fine, but then when the server tries to delete yours, the request is just stacked up. And if you can close your client, usually with Alt F4, before the request goes through, The trade is done, but the original is not deleted. Players have discovered it's as simple as blocking incoming data requests from a few specific ports on your computer. If the server cannot get the request to you to delete the original, it simply can't delete the original. So why is this so hard to catch? Well, because the only way to catch it would be to send data from the server to the client to check they're not doing anything dodgy, but if they are, that data sending will fail. It will just stack up and it looks like effectively they're offline. It's not like your client is replying with, yeah, I'm exploiting. It's that the data isn't getting there in the first place. It could just look like lag. That's effectively what you're making happen. This means one of two things are happening. Either the server is queuing up a load of data to be sent once the client is focused, or the client has a load of data on it waiting to be processed and it only begins processing when the window is focused. Either way, we have discovered a way to delay the client processing data that it should be processing immediately. You know how they always said you can't pause an online game? Well, with New World, you kinda can. So why is this happening and where's the exploit going to go in the future? Well, when you stand AFK for a long time in an MMORPG, the server sends you some data and you send back some data, and eventually the server realizes, hey, this person isn't sending any data, they must be offline. And so it kicks you off the server. It makes you go offline. That's why the requests haven't been sent back. And the reason you kick an offline player offline is because you don't want anyone or anything to be able to interact with that player while they're offline. Imagine if you could still be hurt while you're logged off. That would be silly. Imagine if people could still send you trade requests while you're logged off, or items in your inventory could be deleted while you're logged off. That would also be silly. Holding the window is effectively putting you into a stasis where the server thinks you are logged off. And only when you activate that window again does all the requests come through. If we can find a way to clear the client cache of those requests before they get processed, they will never get processed. Or if we can find a way to stop the server sending you the requests, then they won't line up in the first place. If you can block incoming requests while being online, as if you are offline, that opens up a world of exploits. So the reality of New World is this. It looks good, it sounds good, and it plays okay if you're a casual player, but if you get deep into the game, you'll discover it's got a deeply coded exploit, which is letting players negate or at least delay all incoming damage requests. This is the equivalent of building a really nice looking house on terrible foundations. I mean, look at this. A Reddit post recently discovered when you hover your cursor over an icon on the minimap, it gets a little bigger. It's a nice little graphical flourish, but if you flick your cursor over it quickly, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger constantly. This is because obviously the icon is programmed to increase size by X amount of % of original. It's based on the size of the icon at the time. And if you put your cursor over it before it's had time to reset to its original shape, you increase it by more because it's starting a little bigger. Now this effect isn't dangerous, it's just silly, but this is a perfect example of something small and exploitable. And it's this level of small exploitable code players are finding everywhere. It's just like how it's been discovered the crit damage reduction on the armor set. That actually reduces all damage. In fact, none of the set effects do what they claim. Almost nothing in New World actually does what it tells you it's going to do. There have been calculations. Anytime it says increases or decreases by a percentage, it very rarely is actually that percent. Players have done tests. Almost every single tooltip is wrong. Think about all the news we've seen about New World so far. The best way to win PvP is to mass report the enemy general because they get banned for 24 hours before a human checks it. The best way to gain lots of gold is to just dupe the gold. The best way to hold a PvP spot is to stick a few characters on it and then have them all wiggle their window around so incoming damage requests are all just stacked up. If you know the correct port to activate or to deactivate at any time while you're playing, you can stop so much information coming to or going from you that you can effectively manipulate an MMORPG far more than a single client should ever be able to. Right now it feels like New World is a mansion built on sand. It looks lovely, and walking around it for a bit is great, but as soon as you realise the foundations are unstable, you're not going to want to stay there. If you're a games designer or a coder, how long do you think it's going to take to fix this? How deeply ingrained into the framework of the game or the engine is this specific bug, this client-server handshake delay? How long is it going to take before someone discovers an even more intense exploit using this delay? Could Amazon detect players moving a window around even if they wanted to? Is that a bannable offence? How can they detect a player not taking damage when the only way they would check is by sending data packets, and that's the only thing they're being blocked or stacked up from doing? I truly feel New World was several months from being release ready, and this foundation level exploit seems to agree with that. But what do you think? Is this a little hiccup, or is this a major developer mistake? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, a massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and the second channel, Josh, Strife Plays, where I replay and review old games voted on by you. And as always, have a great day.